how's it going, awesome humans? Today's Lightroom tutorial is a shoot that I did just outside the house with my daughter riding her scooter, and it was right after the sun went completely down. Everything looked really cool, so I ran in and got my camera, threw on the 85mm Nikkor, the 1.8 version, and just ran with it. Now with the lower light, you would normally bump up your ISO or use an open aperture, and I used an open aperture, I used f1.8. But the edit at hand here is a different kind of look than usual. You know, sunset is nice warm tones, and then afterwards, blue hour, it's more blue. Everything's a little bit darker, more blue, the sky is a little bit more blue, and there's a certain haze that you usually edit to put in photos. So you get it right off the bat, and in Lightroom, you're just enhancing it. So I'm gonna edit a few of these photos. I think I'm gonna push more towards the teal and orange, but not a lot, just very slight, and see how that works out. Check this out. Hello and welcome to another awesome tutorial in Lightroom by Josh Zaring. So I'm going to start, I picked these 5 images. You can see how dark they are. I wanted to stick to ISO 100 and f1.8, and I really wanted to get kind of a darker color. I underexpose intentionally a lot of the time, mainly to get the sky how I want it, and then, you know, adjust the rest of the image. But in this case, I just wanted it to be, you know, less noisy, and you can see all the fine details and everything. So it's just a simple brightening. And what I'm going to do with this image is give it sort of a teal and orange look, but not all the way there. Like probably if I were to put a scale on it, I would say 50% teal and orange. And the rest of it, I'm going to adjust this pink to be a little bit more red, and I'm going to mess with the purples a little bit. By the time I'm done, this will be more probably like a bluish, maybe violet blue, if you will. And I'm going to be going to darken this background a little bit, darken the black on the helmet and the shirt, and give it a slight haze, just a very slight moody haze to it. And so let's start in the basic. I shot this with the temperature of 5800. I'm going to change it just to straight daylight and 5500, and that little tint adjustment is just fine where it is. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up probably to close to 2, plus 2. Sometimes my OCD kicks in and I just type it in. So I just bumped that up a little bit. My main concern right now is this area right here. Her face needs to be properly exposed, and the rest of it will fall into place. But I want to make sure my skin tones are similar to what you see here, just a little bit darker around the edges, bring out the contouring. And I'm going to start with the highlights. I'm going to bring those up a little bit. 27 seems good. Shadows, I'm going to bring them down. I'm going to start working on bringing this down and really watching her face to make sure that doesn't get, you know, overly underexposed. 35, negative 35 should be okay. Now I'm just going to skip the whites and move down to the blacks, because that's the majority of where I want to be right now to get the overall base look that I'm going for here. And I'm just going to pull it all the way down and then bump it up until it looks close. 70. Even though we have some weird artifacts happening here, that's going to go away in a minute. I'm going to skip the clarity and vibrance and saturation. I'm going to skip that whole thing, and I'm not going to be touching that at all for this image. So I'm going to move to the tone curve. I'm going to make 2 points here, and I'm going to pull the highlights down just a tad. You don't want to pull them down too far. You can see what's happening in the histogram here. It's pulling it down. I'm mainly focusing on highlights on her face and these highlights back here. If you can pull it down further, but you'll see some weird things are starting to happen to the highlights on her face, and we don't want that. So I'm just going to pull that back up, just slightly down, and then pull the blacks up just a little bit, just to kind of fade out this a little bit and just give it more of a smooth, velvety, moody feel to it. And then I'm going to move down here to the color settings. The reds, I'm just going to pull the luminance down ever so slightly, -5, just to bring out this little section here, just a little bit. And then I'm going to move down to the oranges and shift that more towards the reddish side of the orange. With the orange, I'm going to pull down the saturation now. And with this orange, I'm pretty much focusing on the skin tones. And after this move, I won't be worried about skin tones at all anymore. So I'm going to just pull this down, watching this. Now her face is starting to get a little whiter, and I'm going to boost that even a little bit more. I'm going to pump the luminance up there. And for the teal and orange kind of hybrid look I'm going for, once I do the camera calibrations, this will get a little bit more orange, so it won't be so pasty looking. So now I'm going to move down to the yellow, and I'm just going to bump the luminance up a little bit. And I'm going to skip the green and aqua because the next move I do down here is going to affect the aqua and bring out the teal and the orange a little bit, so I don't really want to screw it up in this step. I am, however, going to shift the blues minus between 10 and 20, somewhere around in here. That looks about right. Leave the saturation alone and pull the luminance down a little bit. And this move is just for this here and any amount of sky I have in these other photos. And you can see there's only like 2 other photos with sky, and it's pretty much there's no blue there. But I'm just doing it ahead of time because it will affect the overall image. And I'm going to skip the purples here. I like how the purples are turning out, so I'm just going to leave that alone. And I'm going to go to magenta, and hopefully that will affect the pinks. I want to make them a little bit more red instead of pink. I guess I'll push that all the way to 100. And that's pretty much what I wanted to do. Just these little areas here, and you notice if I turn this off, the hearts start to pop on the shirt. And they're originally closer to like a pink. So I've just made them red. And they do pop now. And I really don't want to take attention away from her face, but what this effectively did was popped her out from the background. Even though there's a healthy dose of bokeh in the background and it's pretty well blurred out, it helps even more because now the background just kind of fades away. So now the next step, I'm going to do the detail. I'm just going to put this at 100 to start. I usually leave it there because of my settings. When I mask out, it's not as extreme as you would think. And the radius, I'm going to pull down to 0.8. I like it a little bit finer. I like it to be a lot less noticeable. So now I'm going to hit Alt and skip to masking, and I'm just going to go all the way to 100 and back down until I like what I see. And usually I'm looking at the eyes here. So now the detail, I'm going to put that way up there too. On these two, on the detail and masking, I'm usually anywhere between 85 and 100. And you probably can't see that gray screen. But see, it's very, very subtle. It's just a subtle sharpening. I don't need any noise reduction on this one, so I'm just going to skip ahead to the last step. And I'm going to go down here to camera calibration. I always make sure this is set at Adobe Standard. That's just how I operate. Like if I make any presets and I end up applying it to a file from a different camera, I never have to really worry about it. So I have it stuck on Adobe Standard, the most current version. And now I'm going to pull the blue primary down between 30 and 40 to get my teal and orange look. And that's basically all I'm going for there. And you can see if I turn it on and off, it brings back the orange and reds in her face. So we effectively made this purple here more of a baby blue, maybe a violet, and pretty much evened out the skin tones, made them a little bit more reddish orange like they should be. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull the greens up to +10. It's just something I usually do. I try to stay away from the yellow greens and more towards the bluish greens. Just overall, as my personal style. This step you can pretty much skip this. So now I'm going to show you the before and after, and you'll see what I actually did here. It's a nice look. It's kind of teal and orange. It's got almost a little bit of a faded vintage feel to it, but it's not all the way to teal and orange. And to simulate that a little bit, I'll bring the blue primary all the way over. And you can see that's a little too far there. That's a little too far. But if we type in -40, it's a little bit more acceptable. So now I'm going to just take these basic settings and sync them to my other images, including white balance. And pretty much all I'll probably do is adjust the exposure for the other 4 images. You can see my curve adjustment a lot in action here. It didn't seem like I moved a lot, but you can see that nice black satiny haze where kind of indistinct bushes, which draws more attention to the subject and less towards themselves, even though that's blurred out pretty much because of bokeh and using f1.8. It just helps. It helps a lot more. And those greens, you can see what I did to the greens also. Less green, a little bit more of a neutral color, and less distracting. So what I'm going to do to this one mainly is you can see a glow. Even though the sun's down, you can see this glow still happening way off in the distance. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take a radial filter and use it as a vignette and make sure it doesn't cover up that area where it's kind of brighter. Make this nice and big and pull it up here, more closer to the scooter wheels here. And now what I'm going to do is just pull down the shadows and pull the highlights up a little bit, so all the highlights that are in there it's just so it doesn't look painfully obvious that it's a vignette, that it was done after the fact. And I'm going to bump that feather up there about 70. Now I'm going to pull the blacks down a little bit. I'll pull them all the way down to see, so you can see where this vignette is going to be, and then back it off. So now we still got that bright spot, and if you really wanted to, you could take the brush and just erase that area just in case, and I don't see a whole lot getting erased. So I'm just going to close that, and now here's the before and after. Much better. For now, that's it, and that's my, I don't quite know what to call it, color scheme for Blue Hour portraits. Thanks for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And if you have any ideas that you would like to see, or anything that you would like to see more of that I'm already doing, go ahead and tell me in the comments what you want to see, and I'll more than likely do it. I've been checking out the analytics, and it seems like a lot of people are watching my videos but not subscribing. So if you wanted to subscribe, that would be just awesome to me, and I would really appreciate it, and you could just give me more input on what you want to see on this channel. So having said that, click the like if you like this video. Please subscribe and tell your friends. Create, share, repeat, and keep it awesome. See you next time.